afternoon or evening or night or whatever it is, wherever you are. Welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name's Erin, and this is part 3 of our romantic country color along. It dawned on me earlier that I always say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time it is when I am recording my video. And so, as it turns out, a lot of you guys aren't even from the United States, and there are different time zones, so I'm saying good morning, and it may be 2 o'clock in the morning for you. So this is our color along that we're working on in Romantic Country, and I'm coloring this with Prismacolor. I kind of struggled for a little while trying to decide on what colors to go with next. And I'm still not sure. Honestly, I'm still not sure what I want to do, like for the bedspread and the sheets and the pillows and the curtains and the bags. I just don't know. I didn't pre-plan this one like I have a lot of the other ones, so we're kind of like at an impasse. A lot of people left comments on the last video, and I just want to say how much I appreciate the fact that you guys took time out of your busy days to stop and leave comments with suggestions as far as how to go about doing some things. And some of you had the idea to color, and this is a stateroom. That's the word I couldn't think of. That's what this is called, is a stateroom. But someone had the idea to color the little portals or the windows, and then the furniture itself in wood colors, because for the life of me, and I just had it in my head, whoever it was that had mentioned how they take pride in the high quality wood, I'm gonna go ahead and take your idea, and that's what we're gonna do. So I've only colored wood really once, where there wasn't like wood grain there, and I did it in a mahogany color. So this time I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I've got 4 different colors. So I've got sand, PC 940, I've got light umber, PC 941, I've got sienna brown, which is PC 945, and I've got dark brown, which is PC 946. So, as you can see by looking kind of at this furniture and the things that are on this page, there's not much in the way of actual like wood grain to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and just be up front with you guys. I've never tried to do this before. I don't know what it's going to turn out looking like. So in this particular case, you might want to fast forward to the end of the video so you can see it and see if you like it before you start following along with me, because I'm not 100% certain how this is going to turn out. So that's my disclaimer for this video. But I am going to go ahead and I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is the sand. And this is going to take some layering on our parts here, guys, because we've got 4 different colors that I want to fit in here. So my idea is to do these like in the multicolors and all 4 colors, the main sections of each piece of wood, each thing that we want wood. And then inside here, I'll probably only do the 2 darker ones, and then the same up here. We'll probably just put the darker ones in. And I think that's going to really help to kind of frame things in for us. So I'm going to go in with my sand, and I'm just going to put down a very light layer all over the inside of this. It's a window. I keep wanting to call it a portal. I guess I'm trying to transport myself to a world far, far away, but it is a window. So again, this is just a really light layer. And I really hope that at this point you guys haven't just decided to dive right in, and that you're going to actually go look at the end of the video to see what it looks like. I watched a couple of videos on how to like actually draw in wood grain. There were 2. One of them, it was pretty simple. It looked simple and it looked nice, but she did it on hardwood floors. And this is not hardwood. And it's curved, so I wasn't really certain how the wood grain would look. So I decided to skip that because, like I said, I don't want to do something that I'm not certain how to do. I would never pretend like I know how to do something and tell you guys to follow along with me if I don't know how to do it. That would be awful. So I figured what we would do is I went and looked at teak online. And basically it comes in all different kinds of colors. And now I'm with my light umber. I'm going in with another just light layer. And at this point, I am doing something just a little bit differently than I would normally do, okay? So I'm putting in some of this light umber here, and then I'm going to like leave some space, and I'm going to come down and put a little bit more like over here. Now technically, if you have like tritones or something, you could probably get those out and, you know, get something pretty close to what I'm trying to do here, but I don't anticipate that you guys have the tritones, and we do want to do this with Prismacolor. So, and now for this one, I'm just going along the bottom edge and leaving some more space. I watched Rachel at Pencil Stash do something kind of similar to this, and she called it bad camo. That was the name that she gave it, was bad camo. And I saw her do it for trees in one of the romantic country books. And so when I was thinking of how to get like a wood pattern, how to make it look like it's wood, what was going to be the best way to go about doing it, and for whatever reason I kept coming back to that video. So I will go ahead, and if this turns out, like even remotely, if it turns out looking nice, I'm going to give the credit to Rachel at Pencil Stash for her bad camo. I did like the way her trees turned out when she did it, but like I said, I'm not sure how it'll work with the wood, but we're about to find out. I'm the guinea pig, guys. I'll take one for the team. So I'm going to put a little bit more here, and it's going to look splotchy and weird at first. And I think that's something that a lot of colorists struggle with. And we can talk about that a little bit while I'm doing this. Colored pencil artists, not necessarily colorists, some colorists too, but colored pencil artists will tell you that there's always a phase when they're doing a colored pencil painting. And yes, even though it's colored pencil, it is still a painting. But they will tell you that almost every single piece that they do, there's what they call the ugly phase. And that's where they've gotten a few of the layers down, and it just absolutely looks like there's no way it's going to possibly come together. Because it looks like a mess. But it's called a phase for a reason. It's not going to stay ugly. It's going to look very nice. So what we're likely to see here with this portal, I want to keep calling it a portal. What we're likely to see here is a significant ugly phase. And hopefully it'll only be a phase. We'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. Like I said, you're not going to get anything accomplished if you don't try, right? So we're going to try. Okay, so I think I'm happy with the amount of this color I have in there. So I'm going to go to my next color, which is Sienna Brown, and I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to go in and I'm going to put some more like little splotches, but I'm going to kind of overlap them. Again, this is still just light layers. I don't want to go in heavy at this point, because if I need to, I can still like erase colors, move them around to different spots if I don't like the way it looks. And once we kind of have an idea of where each of these colors is going to go, then we can start going back in with like a medium pressure and filling in some of the spots. Now this is a color along, and technically what that means is we're coloring the same picture with the same pencils. I'm telling you what color I'm using, but you have options. Just because it's a color along, I don't want you to ever feel like you have to do exactly what I'm doing. Number one, you're never obligated to have to participate. You can color whatever you want and just kind of, you know, hang out and glance up from time to time and see what kind of mess I'm making, or you can color in the same book but a different picture, or you can color the same picture with different pencils. You can do whatever you want to do. There are no rules. There are people who appreciate the structure behind a color along. They feel that because the colors are being picked out for them and the pictures being picked out for them, that it's easier for them to work on learning their techniques. And I can see this for some people. Remember, everybody learns differently. And everybody likes different things. So, hoping today that some of us may learn this new technique together. We'll see. And what I'm going to do, because the color of the wall is kind of close to some of the colors, like when they're blending together in here and making a color that's really similar to this, I'm going to take the darker brown, or maybe both of the darker browns that I have. This one, not this one, the light umber and then the dark brown, and just kind of outline the edge of this so that it like gives it more distinction. You can see it better, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm trying not to leave too many really light spaces here because I don't want a whole lot of the dark brown in this part. I mean, I do want some, but just not a lot. It's funny, when I actually Googled teak to try to get an idea of what it looked like, there are so many different kinds. You'll find it with like the traditional wood grain patterns, and you'll find it with striped patterns, and you'll find it with, you know, a pretty smooth finish that has basically no pattern. And then you'll find it kind of like this. And like I said, because it's round, I figured that this might be the easier way to do it instead of trying to draw in our own wood grain. And of course, we didn't have to do this either. We could have just used some layers and blended the colors together. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine too. Again, you're free to do what you want to do. Okay. So now finally I'm going to take my dark brown, which is PC 946, and I'm going to start going around the edge here. And I've got my pencil really sharp. And so I'm just going to add like an outline here. And what should happen is you should start to see the window sort of pop away from the wall. And very, very lightly, I'm just making sure I'm all the way up against that black line with this. And I'm very, like, barely touching the paper, pulling the color up into the window so that it's not quite as harsh of a line. The trick here is going to be to keep your pencil sharp. And as you guys can see, I'm kind of using the edge of my pencil. I'm not holding it way down here. Kind of holding it back and using the edge of it to go in this way. And then every so often what I'm doing is turning it so that I have a new sharp point. And this way, you can keep your point longer without having to sharpen as many times, which is always nice. And this may be a little bit of a slow process for this because, like he said, this is new to me and I'm a slow colorist anyway, so trying something new, I'm going to be a little extra cautious. Hope you guys can see what's happening here. Basically, I'm just going around, barely pulling this color up. There, just like that. And I'm just going to turn my book. I'm still in awe of the YouTubers who can, or color tubers, I'm sorry, the color tubers who can color an entire picture without moving their book. I don't understand how they do it. I'm guessing it's like 30 years of practice is how they manage, because I keep trying and I keep moving my book. But that's okay. I'm just going to keep moving my book, because I think if I'm moving my book, you guys are going to realize it's okay for you to move your book. And if that's what you've got to do to get a good angle somewhere, then by all means, do it. I like that so far. Okay, so this inner ring we're going to do in darker browns. We're going to leave the sand out of it and the umber out of it. So we're doing these in the deeper colors. We've added some warmth in the outer ring, and we want to kind of keep that warmth out of this part. That's going to help us separate it. Again, this is just another light layer, and this is the light umber. Same technique as before. I'm just using the light touch, kind of trying to use the side of the pencil and keep turning it as I go so that I have a sharp point to get down in there with. Alright, so there's that. Now with the dark brown again, I'm just going to go right around the edge. And this, I'm using it lightly this time. I'm outlining it, but I'm doing so very lightly, because I want there to just be like a little shadow there, kind of like a distinction. And I'm probably coming, I would say, halfway from the line to the outside, to where the window actually is. We're trying to make it look like it's actually, like this is actually on the inside. Like this is back from this, which is why I'm doing it in the darker colors. I guess I should have explained that. Make it look recessed. That's the word. Ah! I have had dropsy all day. I don't know what's wrong with me. You guys are going to think I've been drinking or something. I have been drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. If it's going to have this effect on me, I may have to give it up completely. Okay. So there's this. Go back just a little darker in a couple spots. And I am using a little bit heavier pressure there along that edge. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with my light umber, and this time with like a more medium pressure, and fill in what's left. And we'll see how it looks after that, if we're going to need more of the dark brown. I don't know if we will or not. I just want to make sure that my color's even all the way around. I don't have any like super light spots or anything. Okay, that looks alright. And then we're going to go ahead and do this. And I think the little rivets, I'm going to go ahead and make those wood too. We'll just do those in the same colors. Alright, so back to the dark brown. I'm going to go a little heavier right here. You can't see my hand. I'm going to go a little heavier right here. And then bring it out. Lighten my pressure as I'm going out. Same up here. Heavier down here, and then lighten my pressure as I'm going out. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring my light umber back in. And fill it in, just like this. For the little rivets, go ahead and get those done. I'm going to take my light umber with medium pressure and just color them in, so not too heavy, but not necessarily light either. It's a nice medium pressure. Get a little edge of one there. Hard to get in that little hole. There we go. And then with the dark brown, I'm just going to kind of do like the bottom half, just to kind of make it look like it's round. You guys might not even be able to pick it up really on the camera. And just medium pressure again. There we go. Alright, so far, so good. But now comes the trick of getting back into our wood. So I'm going to take the dark brown, which is the only color we haven't put in there yet. I'm just going to lightly go into the places where I can still see quite a bit of the sand showing through. And I'm not adding much. It's a light pressure. And there's only a few areas where I actually let the sand come through. So it shouldn't be too much of the dark brown at all. And maybe a little bit more up here. Excuse me. So I can't tell. I thought maybe last night that I was starting to come down with the flu. This is light umber, and I'm just going back over things, guys. I'm just doing the camouflage thing again. Coming back in a few spots. Adding some more color. A still light pressure, because I don't, like I said, I don't want it to look chunky and sloppy. I want all the colors to kind of lay on top of each other and blend. So last night I thought maybe I might be getting the flu. I did good most of the day, and then I kind of got achy and my chest got tight, and you guys can probably tell my throat's a little scratchy. My nose is a little stuffy, and I was seriously in panic mode that I was coming down with the flu, because the flu is running rampant here. It's awful. So many people have it that I think they said something, as a matter of fact, they did say 25% of the hospital staff is out sick. And so they're asking people to not come to the hospital, not come to the emergency room for flu symptoms unless you have like a pre-existing medical condition and it's a truly emergency situation. So you know there's something up when that happens. I guess the flu vaccine this year wasn't as effective as it has been in years past, like they put the wrong strains or something in there. Because when they make it, of course, they guess at which strains of flu they expect are going to be the worst for the coming flu season. And those are the ones they include. And I think I read somewhere they put anywhere from like 3 to 5 flu strains in each year's vaccine. It could be more than that, but I think I read it was 3 to 5. So the strains apparently that they picked for this year to put in the vaccine aren't the strains that are getting people down. And so that's why the flu is so bad. And it does happen, unfortunately. It's not an exact science. There's no way to be 100% certain of which flu strains are going to really be the worst. All they can do is make an educated guess. But it does kind of stink, really, if you think about it, that, you know, you went to all the trouble to go get your flu vaccination or whatever, and now it's not even going to work. So, or it might work, but it's only like a 10% effective or something this year. Okay, so now, by the way, this is sienna brown, if I didn't say. I'm really bad about not telling you what color I have. So now what I'm doing is going back in with this one, and I'm trying to make sure that I have, see where the light spots are? That's kind of, I'm going to go back over this with the sand at the end to blend it all out. So I want to make sure that I have some spots where that sand is going to come through, because that, from what I could tell when researching the teak, this is light umber again. From what I could tell when researching the teak, the big thing about it and what made it really stand out was its nice warm yellowy undertones. So, in all honesty, polychromos probably would have been a better pick, because their tones are so natural and earthy, and there's so many pretty ochre colors. But we are using Prismacolor, so I've decided to mix the sand in with the sienna to see what happens, just to see if it gives us that richness that teak has. And I think for right now, I'm pretty satisfied with that color. So at this point, I'm going to take my sand and I'm going to come in with a medium pressure. And I'm going to try to kind of mix and smush all these colors together. And we should see just little pops of yellow. Little pops of that golden richness where I've left it lighter. I'm going to do this and see if I like it, and if I do, I'm going to go ahead and come back in and do it with a heavy pressure. And I think that actually looks pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sand, I'm just going to use a heavy pressure now, and I'm going to go over the whole entire thing. And this is going to completely blend our colors together. Get rid of that splotchy look for the most part, so that we can bypass the ugly phase and make it look like it is wood. Might be a little more yellow than what I wanted, but I think that with the contrast of the wall behind it, let me zoom it out so that you guys can really see it. It does look pretty yellow when you're zoomed in tight, but when you back it out and look at it like this, it looks more like the teak. It looks nicer. I'm actually quite happy with how that turned out. You guys may not be. This may not be something that you want to do. And if not, then you can use, you know, the same coloring methods that I use in my other color alongs, where you just start out with your light layer, and then you start here and you bring out your next lightest color, and then your next darkest color, and then your next one, and then you reserve your darkest just for right up around that edge. So if that's something that you want to do and you're not a fan of this particular look, then you can go ahead and go back and do it the traditional way. I'm actually really liking this, and I'm going to use it again in other pages. So, alright, at this point, guys, I'm going to take a break for a moment. I'm going to sharpen up my pencils, and we'll come back and we'll do this one, which is going to be a little bit different because this is where our light glow is. So we're going to need to handle that too. Alright, I'll be right back with you momentarily. Alright guys, welcome back. Sorry about that. We may have to do this in kind of like some short clips that I smushed together because it's about time for my kids to eat and they're whining that they're hungry. So okay, so we're going to do this window next, but the thing is that this is where we're going to have our glow from our little lantern. So the first thing I want to do is kind of make sure that I've got that little glow accounted for. So I'm going to take, for right now I've got canary yellow, and that's the color that's going to be glowing on the wall. Now, I may come back in with this and actually do more to that little flame there. But as for right now, we're just going to put in color in the flame, and then I'm going to color a light layer of the canary yellow all in this area. And I'm going to try to blend it out into the seashell pink that we used for the wall. Now, if you can't get a nice solid blend, then you might want to go for your blender pencil. It can help, but remember that if you're going to use a blender pencil, it helps to have several layers down first. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're going to have some yellow glow all over. So I want to make sure that I get all that accounted for. Now, because it's going to be a daytime scene, we're not going to see like a glow really coming, like it's not going to be reflecting off this window as much because the sun's shining outside and you just won't see it. So we don't have to worry about that. We just want to get the glow onto the wall. And what I'm doing is I'm actually extending it out a little bit into that seashell pink. And this we don't have to do a whole lot with yet. We can just kind of leave it the way that it is, because we can always come back and finish it up. But I just want to make sure that we're accounting for our little glow here before we color the window. And so that's accounted for now. And then now that we have the glow in, we're going to take sand and we're just going to do this whole process all over again that we did on the first one. So I'm going to sharpen this up. My pencil sharpener now, this is what, week 3 or 4? Of my Tagal, and it's still doing a fantastic job. So I absolutely cannot complain, and I am very, very thankful to have it. It was a wonderful gift, so thank you again. Okay, so I am going to come in with sand and go over the whole entire window, except for the strip down here. We're not going to do that, and we're not going to do like the little rivets, because we're going to do those in just the 2 darker colors. Again, I'm using the side of my pencil so I can maintain that nice sharp tip. And that's going to let me get like in these little thin areas, just like that. If you rotate it as you go, you're going to keep your sharp tip without having to sharpen. Now, even though we've already got this part like with the glow on it, you do still want to kind of come down in there with all your colors and go over it. You're going to go over it really light, but you still do want to get your colors in there because you want to make it look like that light's bouncing off of, or illuminating, if I can speak, illuminating the wood right there. You don't want it to just be all one solid yellow blob. Okay, so now we're going to do the same technique that we did on this window over here. We're just going to kind of use that that patchy technique to go in and add some patches of our different colors. So I'm starting this time with the light umber. And again, just light layers at first, and just in spots. And you guys can pick your spots at random. You don't have to do the same spots I'm doing exactly, because that might get a little frustrating for you. But if you are following along and doing it like a color along, just pick whatever spots you like. And remember that when you're going in that glowy part, that you want to go extra light, because you don't want to cover up all your pretty yellow that you put in there. Again, I'm just using the tip of the pencil. Go around that little rivet thing. I'm just randomly sticking it in, the color in. Just randomly wherever it seems like it looks good. Jump up here. I'm trying to leave some spaces because we have another brown that I want to bring in, and then like we did with the other one, the dark brown's just going to go like in a couple little spots. We don't want too much of that. And then we're going to put a little bit more of this right here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my sienna brown. I always want to say brown sienna. Can never get these color names right. And then kind of go in the spots that we left with just the sand. Remember though, you do want to leave a few little areas where you don't have any brown over it, because that's where the dark brown's going to go, so it can stand out a little. So like right here, see the spot, the dark brown will show right there. Right here, the dark brown will show through a little right there. We'll leave a little spot down here, like right up against the edge there, because we're going to go over that with dark brown anyway. But you see what I mean. We don't want too much, but we do want some. And then very light right here. We don't need a whole lot of color in this section. We just want to be able to tell that there's some color there. And I'm like literally touching the paper as lightly as I can. And you do want to make sure that when you're doing this that you overlap. So you want to go into that umber just a little bit, at least in spots. You don't have to do it everywhere, but you don't want it to look striped. You want it to kind of look like it's natural. And the best way to do that is just kind of let your colors overlap. I think I do, actually no, I want to make this part a little redder. I'll leave that for the dark brown. Alright, so now I'm just going to darken up just a slight little bit, some of this sienna brown. Just because it's still in my hand, I might as well go ahead and do it, save myself the step. Okay, so Now that we have all that in there, I'm going to take my dark brown and we're going to do like we did on this one, and we're just going to kind of go along the outside edge at first. On a nice sharp tip. Holding my pencil at an angle. Now technically, you could, if you wanted to, like put a little shadow here because there is a light source, but again, it's daylight and the light's coming into the room. So there's also light shining out this way from the window. So it's going to hit the back of the curtain, and this light's going to hit the front of the curtain. So it's kind of going to neutralize any shadows that would be there. Now if it were dark outside and this light was the only light on, then there may be shadows back there. But because it's daylight outside and there's light shining from both directions, you shouldn't see any shadow, which is why I'm not adding them. So for now, this is just the outline. And then when we get in here to the glowy part, again, we want to lighten up the pressure some because we don't want to take it over. I mean, we may still have to come back over with the yellow a little anyway. We'll see what it looks like when we get it done. Okay, so now I'm going with my dark brown and just barely feathering that color up, just to kind of make it look rounded instead of a harsh line. There we go. And then while I have my dark brown, I'm going to go ahead and go back in here in some of these little spots and put the dark brown. Now, like we did before, remember to leave a few little areas where you can almost only see the sand, because this is going to let some of that yellowy, warm color shine through. It really gives us our wood look. And then we do still need to come back in one more time with the light umber and give it some more of that as well. Right down here, right up against that edge. Again, we don't want a whole lot, just a little. All right, now the light umber one more time. And we're just gonna mix it right over top of everything else. Right into the sienna brown, right into the dark brown. Just leaving a little bit of area for the sand. Once you're happy with the way you have your browns in, I'm just going to go ahead and go over this area with this, trying to make it look, this is kind of tough. This is a new one. Trying to make it look like it's illuminated and not just yellow. So once you're satisfied with the way that you have your colors mixed in, and I'm not satisfied with this right here, I'm going to blend that just a little better. Then you can come back in with your sand. And again, just like we did over here, we can just use a heavy pressure and just smush all the colors together. That's basically what you're doing, smushing it all up. I'm going to be careful going in there because the sand is a darker yellow, and I don't want it to overpower our lighter yellow. I'm sorry if you guys hear doors and stuff slamming. It's what happens when you have kids. They like to be noisy and loud and bring all their friends over to eat you out of house and home. They do that too. Alright, so now what I want to do is take my canary yellow. Actually, no. The next step is to take the light umber and to do the little rivets. And we're going to do these lighter. We do want them to be done. And then do this with a light touch. Now the light touch you only need down in this area. The rest of it I'm going in with medium pressure. So that's lighter, and this is more medium. Okay. Then with the dark brown, we're going to start down here. We're still going to use a light hand, but you still need to make that little gradient like we did on this side over here, just with a much, much lighter hand. And then when you're finished with that, you go back in with the umber. And you should have what it looks like compared to this. It should just look illuminated, or I'm hoping so anyway. Here we can go heavy and then lighten our pressure. You guys couldn't see a thing, could you? There we go. And then this, we'll come back in. Now I'm just going to take my dark brown and go along the bottom of the rivets again. Just to kind of distinguish them a little bit, make them look like they're three-dimensional. Really hard to see that dark brown, so I'm going back in there one more time. It looks a little better. Okay, so now that all that's finished, this little area where we have our lighter color, I come back in with just a very, very light layer of the canary yellow again, just to kind of amplify that glow. I'm going to go ahead and pull it down. So the last thing is to go back in and do like a little loop. Now what I'm coloring inside here, notice that I'm not bringing the color all the way out, and that's going to make it kind of, it's going to help me when we come back to this later, make it look like an actual lamp, and I'll show you that another time in another video. So like we did on this side, I'm going to go through with a light layer of the light umber on the inside ring. Lighter as you get right here. And then go this way. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these same colors for the outside of the chair, the desk, and the bed, except, you guys couldn't see any of that, could you? So we're going to use the same color like on the frame of the chair, not the upholstered part, but like the frame, so the outside, and then we're going to do the desk with it. But we're going to do it differently. I'm not going to do the splotchy look thing. We're going to do like a more traditional blending gradient kind of thing. Then we'll also do this part of the bed. Now down here, it appears to be upholstered, like the foot of the bed. And if you notice up here, there's like a little rail, and then it's something else in here. Now, it could be very well that you have, this could be hollow. So what you could do is take your seashell pink, I'm sorry. Take your seashell pink and go in here and do it like it's the wall. But if you look over here, so we have this line that's coming down, and it should cut through right about here, but it doesn't. So that leads me to believe that that and this upholstery, if I can move my book enough, these two things should match each other. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do when I choose a color, is just make sure these two things match each other. But otherwise, the posts and the outside frame, they're all going to be in the wood colors. So that will bring these elements all together. Okay, so now I'm going to take my dark brown, going around, going around. Again, we're doing this to make it look like I'm doing it on the edge that's closest to the room. So not the edge that's closest to the outside, the edge that's closest to the room. That's going to kind of give it like a tunnel effect. I'm just going around with a medium pressure. It gave me what I wanted last time, so I don't have to be quite as careful. I do need to be careful right here, though. I don't want to go quite as dark right in that spot. And now down here, like the line work kind of thins out, but that's okay. Just keep going. Those little deviations are going to make it look more realistic, I think. And then back in with the umber. Light umber. Now, unless you went in and went crazy and really, really burnished in your colors, what you can do is take kind of a look at your two windows together. Now for me, this one looks a little more yellowy than this. So what I'm going to do is take my light umber and just kind of go over some of the yellow. And that should help to tone it down some. We're just going to go back in a few spots, cover up a little bit of the yellow. Like right here it looks kind of yellow, so we'll just cover it up some up here, and then maybe up here in this area. And all I'm trying to do is just kind of tone down the brightness of it. And I think that might be a little bit better. I'm just going to go in again with the sienna, and basically all I'm trying to do is match the colors. I'm trying to make sure I don't have one that's a lot yellower or a lot redder or a lot browner than the other. And I think it might also be because I didn't put as much dark brown in this one as I did the other. So I'm going to go back in, and this is just super, super light pressure. Here we go. And then, let's see, we're going to use the light umber. I'm just doing touch-ups. You may not have to do this at all. There. I think that looks better now. I don't think I need to... I may need to use the blender pencil to blend this out because I don't know Nope, it's not putting down too much yellow. This is fine. Okay, so let's zoom out and take a look. See what we've got so far. I kind of like it. I think it looks okay. I'm really excited to put these same colors down here. But like you said, guys, we're not going to do the whole, the camouflage thing. We're not going to do that on the furniture. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with a light layer of the sand at first. And then we're going to kind of do like a more traditional gradient with the other browns and blend it all out and together. We could do this if you want, and if you want to, you can do this, but I'm not going to because I think it's just going to be simpler, and I think it's going to look, for the furniture the way it is, I think it's just going to look nicer to do it the traditional, just a regular gradient with the shadows, because of course we're going to have a little bit of shadow back here with the main light source coming out toward us this way. A lot of this is going to be darker, so we're going to have this side darker. This is going to be in highlight because of the way the light's shining. So I think it's going to be really fun to do that. Alright, so at this point I'm going to stop and take another break. I may come back and finish the rest of the furniture. If we don't get to it tonight, I'm going to go ahead and still put the video up, so don't worry. Not that you guys will know any different by the time you're watching this, but I'm talking to myself. Alright, bear with me just a moment. Hi everybody. I know that was only like a split second for you, but I was gone forever. My kids decided they were hungry and I had to make food, and yeah, so there was all of that, but I'm back now. Unfortunately, it did get a little bit late on me, and I do have some other things I have to do today, but I figured that what I would do would be to go ahead and try to get, while we have these colors out, and we're going to be working with these again in our next video too, just so everybody's aware. We're going to go ahead and get the bedposts done, and the rail back here, the foot, and the chair. So, what I am going to do, see, now I'm all like messed up and backwards. I'm going to take my sand and sharpen it up, and I'm going to start with the bed. And I'm just going to color the top of the post because I want this to be wood. I'm going to color this part, and this is a super light layer. It's just going to kind of serve as a base because, like I said, we're not going to do the camouflage this time. We're just going to do it to kind of look like a solid piece of wood. And then I'm going to take my light umber, which is my next color, and because our light's coming in from this way, this side is going to be the darker side. So I'm just going to start filling it in, light layer, and I'm going to leave just a little strip, just like a little strip right here along this edge that I'm not filling in. Same thing over here. And then with this, we're going to leave just like a little edge here, and that's it. So I'm using my light umber and just going completely over the sand with a light touch. And then as I get up here to this area, I'm going to leave just that little bit of sand showing. And that's going to be the highlight for the bed. Now I am going to take my sienna brown, and the point here is I know that we're going like right over top of all of our same colors, but the point here is that we're trying to build like some depth of color to make it look like it's actually wood. And wood isn't just one flat color. Even if it looks like it isn't really. And then we're going to put some of it over here. And here as well. I didn't do this part, did I? So basically with this, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to leave a little of the sand color showing along that edge. And we're putting our darker colors here. Now notice I'm going a little, move my book so you can see what I'm doing. Now notice back here, what I'm doing is I'm going a little harder right here and then lightening my pressure. And it's going to make it look like that foot is rounded. And then the same with this color. A little harder pressure here, lightening up and not bringing it out as far. And then with the dark brown, we're going to do one final time. Just like that. And then to finish it off, I'm going to come in with my light umber and go back over everything. All except for that little strip. And I'm going to bring my sand in. And that's how I'm going to color that. That's how I'm going to do this the entire bed. So, that part's finished, so we can remain zoomed in on this part now. So I'm going to bring my sienna brown. We're just very lightly kind of going over where we put the light umber, and I'm going to go back over because I don't think I got that in there dark enough. I want it just a little darker than that. The goal is to leave just, see how I've got just that little strip there? That's all I want. Just a little strip. And then the dark brown again, we're going to come in. And then I'm going to take my light umber, go back over the dark brown just to kind of blend it out. Leave your highlight in place though, don't go over it. And then with the sand, you're just going to go over everything, the whole entire thing. Just like that. And that's going to be like where our sunshine's hitting. So, up here on this piece, we need to go back in with the dark brown. I'm just going to build up layers on this because this is a little bit bigger. So the eye is going to be drawn to it a little bit more. And I want to make sure that I get the colors in there the way I like. So dark brown and then sienna brown. Guess I should move my hand so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to take my light umber and go back over all of that. And stretch it out just, oh, that's dark brown, we don't want that. And stretch it out just a little bit further. Oh no. I'm going blind in my old age. I can't tell one color from the next. And then again, like we've done for these sections down below, we're just going to come back in with the sand and just do like that. So we have our little highlight. Alright, so on this part, we still have the same thing. So we've got dark brown. And this is going to be in shadow a little bit. So I'm going to add a little more dark brown right there. Then I'm carefully, because I can't see and I'm not trying not to turn my book because I'm zoomed in so far, going to add just some dark brown right along that edge. Because remember, this is going to look like it's rounded, and this piece beneath it we're going to color like it's upholstered. So we want to give this a look like it's rounded off. So I'm going to do it just like that. Need to add a little dark brown over here. I'm going to come back with my sienna brown. Now you could just go over this with a brown pencil and call it done. But for me, what I like to do is really try to build up those colors so that when I look at it later, it almost looks like real wood. And then the light umber, and this time it is light umber. I'm going to come in, go over everything except for the little highlighted area. And then last but not least, we're coming back in with sand. And we're going over the entire area. Everything, including the highlight. I'm going to use a heavy pressure now when I go back in my light with my last layer, because it's going to blend everything together. So now when you look at the bed, our bed is nice and reflective because it's got the light coming from back here now, because we have this light and both of these light sources that are all coming in from this way. So the bed's tucked back in this corner, and because our light's all coming in from it at this angle, this is where our highlight is going to be, and up along the top of the rail. So when we put a highlight up here and we put a darker color down here, basically what we're doing is we're giving the impression that that railing, or the whatever you want to call it, the frame of the bed is actually rounded off. And you'll really be able to see it better once whatever color we choose goes down in here. Okie dokie. So the next thing and the last thing that we're going to do today is the chair. And I'm not going to zoom in quite as close just right away because I kind of want you to see what I'm doing a little better. So I'm going to take the sand just like I have with everything else, and I'm going to go over the wooden parts of the chair. So from what I can tell, it's going to be these. And these you don't have to color as wood. I don't know if they should be wood, but that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have this part upholstered and this part upholstered. And then this down here is going to be, I think it's like this because it has the little rivets. So I am going to color it like that. And again, with this layer, there's no need to be picky. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just basically getting ourselves a base layer down. That's it. Okay, I'm going to go right in with my dark brown and fill in those rivets with the dark brown. I'm going to have to get right up on top of it. I know you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but I've got to get my pencil point in there. So you should be able to see it. See, yeah, you can see it now. There we go. And I also want these little bottom parts to be a little darker. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to skip the sienna, and I'm going to go ahead and go in with my light umber with a medium pressure. We're just going to go right over top of the sand on the little bottom of the feet. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my dark brown and kind of like draw a line. Let me show you how I'm doing this. I'm basically kind of drawing a line to mark where the center is with the back of this, and then I'm pulling it out and leaving a little highlight on either side. And again, that's going to kind of give it that rounded off appearance, like that's an actual rounded cap. Now that doesn't look perfect, and that's okay because we're going to come back in. And now I'm using a heavier pressure, and we're just going to kind of fill it all in. You're not going to see a whole lot of highlight here because it is down on the floor, so there's not a whole lot of light shining on it. But the goal is just to kind of make it to where you can barely tell that the center of this in the back is darker. So now that that's finished, we're going to take light umber again. We're going to kind of do the same thing. Now we have this lantern up here, so we're going to, this part right here, this little tiny section, it should be in the glow. So we're going to be very careful there. But other than that, just using a light pressure. And like we did with the bed, I'm leaving a tiny little sliver that will serve as a highlight. And the same thing over here, except we're going to leave our highlight on this side over there. we go. Now with the sienna, I'm going to go right along that little edge, light up top because what's in that glow from the lantern. And then just a pretty much light to medium pressure just to bring it down the edge there. And again, we're just doing this to add a little depth. Now with our dark brown, we're going to need to get our pencil pretty sharp because we are going to only put that right up against the edges. So I'm going to resharpen. And then I'm going to take my really sharp dark brown pencil and just go right up next to that part of the chair. Alright, now as we've been doing, I'm going to take my light umber and I'm basically just going to come back in and kind of drag those colors out a little, being very light up here, but then using a more medium pressure as I go down. And just leaving that little bit not colored in so that we can, when we go back over with sand, we get that nice yellow highlight. Now if you guys think that's too yellow, if you don't want it quite as yellow like as it is over here on the bed, you can absolutely go over it very lightly with the umber, and then once you go back over it with the yellow, it'll kind of mute it a little bit so it won't be quite as bright. But that's completely up to you. I'm going to go in just a little heavier. Don't think it got enough color down, so we're going to go back. There we go. Now I'm going to take my sand and just on both sides, I'm going to go over the whole entire area I've colored. Just like that. The same over here. And I think that looks pretty nice. So now to do the rest of the chair, we're going to pretty much do it the same way as we did over here. I'm going to have these legs under here are going to be pretty dark because they're not in the light at all. These ones out here are also going to be pretty dark. I'm not going to worry so much about leaving the highlights like I did up here, really because there's not going to be a whole lot of highlight there. So first and foremost, I just want to go in here and we're going to do this part in the light umber. And then I'm going to go back with the dark brown and go underneath right here. And the goal is to just make it look like this because I believe this, the way it looks and the way the artist has it rounded, it looks like it's sticking out over this a little bit, and I want to go ahead and try to continue that effect. So just like that. And then the tiniest little layer of the brown sienna. Very light pressure, almost as light as I can go. And then finally again with the sand, and you want to be careful when you're using the heavy pressure because you can drag that brown out of those little rivets and make it smear. So I'm trying really hard not to do that. There we go. Alright, now, like he said, we're going to make these back legs a little darker. So light umber all the way around. And I'm just using the side of the pencil, turning it every so often to keep my point sharp. And again, this doesn't need to look amazing yet. We're still just on base layers. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, instead of leaving that area of just the pure yellow like we did up here as a highlight, I'm going to leave a little area of the umber, and it's going to be kind of like a darker highlight, because this is going to be in much more shadow, but you should still be able to distinguish where more light is hitting it, and that's what I'm trying to do. So we're just going to go over all of this in a light layer of the sienna brown, but on this side you see that little tiny line that I'm leaving of the umber, and that's all I'm doing. Now this back here, I'm not leaving that line. This right here, I'm going to leave the line at the top of that rung. So just right up here along the top, we just want to leave a little spot for some highlight. And then I'm going to do this whole rung, or this whole leg. Just going over it in the sienna. And again, we're just going to leave a little strip on this side. Just like that. Right, now with dark brown, I'm going to go over very lightly the whole back, legs that are in the back, the ones that are further away under the desk. But I don't want these to look dark brown. I don't want to cover up all of the color that's under there. So I'm just using a light layer. Now for this one, I'm going to bring it out only about halfway. So not the whole entire leg, just about half of it, about to right here. The next thing that we're going to do is put our dark brown on about half of this rung. So start at the bottom and make it come up about halfway, very lightly. Again, you don't want to cover up the colors that you have below. You want to add to the colors that you have below. And then, with the umber, I'm going to go back over everything. Now if you'd like, you can come in with your sand and just kind of go down the sides of the legs just to get that color in there a little more and kind of fill in any white space that you might have left behind. And that would be that part of the chair. Now if you look, you're going to notice that we have more of a yellowy tint up top than we do down bottom, and that's kind of how we want to have it, because this chair is back behind this desk, and so the lights up here, the lights over here, and the lights over here. So none of these lights are really going to be hitting this chair very much, not this part of it. The lights are hitting the top of the chair because it's stuck up above the desk, and this light over here is probably going to hit it some too because of where it's sitting. Now the bed's going to get even more light because we've got this lantern over here, we've got these two windows coming down, and it's off in this corner. So shading, adding shadows, adding highlights isn't my strongest suit. It's something that I have been working on, so I'm hoping that you guys who are actually following along with this, I hope that the way I'm trying to explain it helps. Basically, when you do stuff like this, you're just kind of looking at your room, right? You're looking and seeing where your lights are, and the only lights that we have this one little glowy lantern, and it's just a little flame, so it's not going to light the whole entire room, and then it's going to be daytime. So we have these two windows, and that's our light. So it's going to be lit in here. It's just not going to be glowing like it's nighttime with somebody shining a flashlight on it. So this over here, by the time we finish, I may decide that I need to go back over some of these little parts with more brown, because it may end up being too glowy, to be honest. And then this will probably be left, because this is where the lantern is. So this will be glowing a little more. But like this here, this over here, once everything else is in place, it'll be easier to tell whether or not we need to go back and add some more brown. If it's too bright, we will, and it's pretty easy to do. Alright guys, so when we come back, what we're going to do is finish the desk. And I am going to have to do some serious work on trying to come up with some colors for the upholstery. So we're going to use the same colors on this, because this is like the little miniature ship's wheel clock thing. So we're going to color that in the same wood colors. And we're going to do the desk all in the wood colors. And then I'm not sure what we're going to do after that, but we'll figure it out. Alright guys, I hope you're enjoying yourself with this little color along. I hope that some of you who have been struggling to color wood, maybe you might like this little technique and maybe you might not, and that's okay. That's why I advised everybody to kind of skip to the end of the video ahead of time to see what you were going to be getting yourselves into if you decided to follow along with me today. I don't want to act like I know exactly what I'm doing when I clearly don't. But I think it turned out nice and I like the technique and I think I'll be using it again in the future. If you are just now seeing this, this is the third part of this series. There are 2 other videos before it, so feel free to go and find those as well. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notifications for the rest of the series as long as you click the little bell. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and you found it useful at all. And until next time, guys, happy coloring.